Everyone talks about Thriller, and yes, it's the best-selling album of all time. Nobody is arguing that, but here's what people keep getting wrong. They use Thriller as the reason to sleep on everything Michael Jackson did after it. That is a massive mistake, because the bad era was Michael Jackson at his most dangerous, most creative, and honestly most underrated period of his entire career. August 31st, 1987. That's the day Michael Jackson dropped Bad, the album that, for once, put him in absolute control. Forget the old story of Quincy Jones pulling the strings. This time, Jackson wrote 9 of 11 tracks himself. He didn't just sing and dance, he mapped out the blueprints, hammered out melodies at Havenhurst, and walked into the studio with finished demos that set the tone for the whole project. He earned co-producer credit on every single song. That's a level of authorship he'd never claimed before. Not on Off the Wall, not even on Thriller. Jackson's creative process for Bad started years before the album hit the shelves. While most pop stars were content to show up and cut vocals, he was locked away at his home studio, building tracks from the ground up. Over 60 demos poured out of those sessions, some rough, some cinematic, all stamped with his voice and vision. Tracks like Al Capone morphed into Smooth Criminal. Hot Fever became The Way You Make Me Feel. He was experimenting with new technology, layering synclavier synths and digital drum machines, pushing for a sound that was sharper, harder, and undeniably his. Even Quincy Jones, the legendary producer, had to adjust. The old A-Team B-Team dynamic was in full force, Jackson's Havenhurst crew chasing wild ideas, Jones's Westlake squad polishing them to a shine. But make no mistake, Jackson was the architect. He rewrote lyrics, demanded retakes for a single drum hit, and refused to compromise on his vision. Every note, every beat, every breath. He was in the driver's seat. For the first time, pop's biggest star wasn't just following the formula, he was rewriting it. Forget the idea that Bad is just the album after Thriller. The numbers alone crush that myth. 5 singles in a row: I Just Can't Stop Loving You, Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, and Dirty Diana. Each one hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. No pop album had ever done that before. Not the Beatles, not Madonna, not even Michael's own Thriller. It took another 25 years before anyone matched that streak. But it wasn't just an American phenomenon. Bad shot to #1 in 25 countries. It was the best-selling album worldwide for 2 straight years, 1987 and 1988. 45 million copies sold and counting. That is not a sophomore slump. That is global domination. In the UK, it went platinum in less than a week. In Japan, fans lined up for hours just to buy a cassette. Every chart, every region, the story repeated. Michael Jackson owned the moment. The industry noticed. Bad was nominated for Album of the Year at the Grammys, standing shoulder to shoulder with the biggest records of the decade. And yet, somehow the narrative stuck that this was a step down, as if rewriting the record books, topping charts across continents, and selling out stadiums was just business as usual for Michael Jackson. The facts say otherwise. No other artist, before or since, has pulled off a run quite like this. If Bad isn't a masterpiece, then the word doesn't mean anything. The Bad World Tour did not just break records, it set a new bar for what a pop concert could be. Michael Jackson launched his first solo tour on September 12, 1987, and the scale was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Over 16 months, he played 123 shows across 15 countries, pulling in 4.4 million fans. That is not hype, that is stadium after stadium packed to the rafters, from Tokyo to London to Los Angeles. The total gross was $125 million in late 80s money, about $291 million today. No solo artist had ever come close. Guinness World Records took notice, naming it the highest-grossing and most attended tour in history up to that point. Wembley Stadium in London alone saw 5 consecutive sellouts, with more than 1.5 million ticket requests for just 72,000 seats per night. Even royalty wanted in. Princess Diana and Prince Charles sat among the crowd, watching Jackson command the stage. Sheryl Crow, then an unknown, sang backup vocals every night. later calling it a masterclass in showmanship. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Jackson did not just perform, he designed the spectacle himself. Hundreds of lights, massive speaker arrays, a barrage of lasers and mirrors turned the stage into a living, breathing machine. Each show was a sensory overload, engineered to reach the very back row. Every detail was intentional, every cue hit with precision. The tour was not just a victory lap, it was a declaration. Michael Jackson had taken control, and the world was along for the ride. Night after night, the Bad World Tour turned stadiums into fever dreams. Jackson did not just play Wembley, he transformed it. The stage was a beast, with hundreds of lights, a wall of speakers, lasers slicing the air, and mirrors that bounced every move back to the crowd. Official numbers swirl. Some say over 700 lights, 100 speakers, 40 lasers, and 3 massive mirrors. But what mattered was the effect. You did not watch a Michael Jackson show. You got swallowed by it. Demand hit levels nobody could have predicted. For 5 nights at Wembley, 72,000 seats vanished almost instantly. But that was just a fraction of the hunger. Over 1.5 million ticket requests poured in, enough to fill the stadium more than 20 times. On July 16, 1988, the royal box did not sit empty. Princess Diana and Prince Charles joined the crowd, just 2 more faces in a sea of fans losing their minds as Jackson launched into Dirty Diana. He nearly pulled that song from the set list out of respect, until Diana herself said it was her favorite. Behind the scenes, future stars were learning in the wings. Sheryl Crow, then a backup singer, watched Jackson sweat every detail. She later called it a masterclass, saying he was hands-on with everything from the set list to the lighting cues. For Crow and the rest of the crew, this was not just a tour. It was a living, breathing spectacle built by the man at the center of it all. The stats are huge, but it is the stories, royalty in the crowd, future legends on stage, and a show that felt like pure electricity that turned those numbers into legend. Music writers are finally saying what fans have argued for years. Bad is not just a follow-up, it is a career peak. The Root calls these years Michael's true prime, pointing to the vocals, the songwriting, and his creative control as unmatched in his catalog. Revolt.tv goes even further and names Bad his greatest album, period. Smooth Radio puts it bluntly, Bad is the moment where Jackson's ambition and talent collided, and the world got to witness the results. These are not just nostalgia pieces, they are reappraisals backed by numbers and fresh ears. Critics who once brushed Bad aside now point out the 5 consecutive #1 singles, the global chart sweep, and the fact that Jackson wrote nearly the entire album himself. The conversation has shifted. The story of Bad is being rewritten, not as a shadow, but as a summit. Academic voices aren't holding back either. Joseph Vogel, who literally wrote the book on Michael Jackson's music, calls Bad the center of Jackson's creative prime, saying those 3 years, 1987 to 1989, were the absolute peak. Vogel isn't just talking about sales or spectacle. He points to the songwriting, the risk-taking, the way Jackson seized control not just of the music, but of his own image and direction. For Vogel, Bad isn't some afterthought to Thriller. It's the moment where Jackson's ambition, artistry, and independence all collided. When a scholar who has spent years dissecting every move in Jackson's catalog says Bad is the summit, it is not just fan hype, it is a measured, researched conclusion. Right now, millions still overlook the era when Michael Jackson seized full control, writing, producing, and shattering chart records. That is not just history, it is a blueprint for creative power in pop. The real question is, why keep treating Bad like an afterthought when greatness is staring us in the face? Drop your take below.